And let's go into player ratings. Let's start off with our goalkeeper, Vicario. 6s all round for Vicario. And I think in the early stages of the game, he was putting my heart in my mouth. I mean, with his playing out of the back. And I mean, did look dodgy at times, and I think he grew into the game though. I really do think he did that, and I think that he was making a number of good saves. I thought maybe on a couple of times he could have caught the ball instead of punching it out and maybe lashing at it. But I think all in all, it was an okay performance from Vicario. I'm not going to say it's anything spectacular, but a lot of people were laying into him after the game yesterday, and I get it for a few dodgy moments, but those dodgy moments were few and far between, and him rushing out the back as well was a bit dodgy, and he could have given away a penalty as well at one time. But I thought all in all it was okay.
Yeah, I think, look, he made a few saves, which I think all the saves you would expect him to make, to be fair, throughout the game. I think he was a bit hesitant a few times when he came out, and it nearly put us in trouble, and I think he came out maybe too often, but he did, to be fair to him, more often than not when he did come out, he was decisive, and he was able to win the ball and stop attacks at source, so that was decent. I felt like his ability on the ball, I don't know what we saw in him at Empoli to make us believe that he's a very good keeper on the ball, but what I've seen so far doesn't suggest that as of yet. Maybe it's something that he hasn't been given the opportunity yet to show how good he is on the ball, but so far he does seem a bit nervous. He's been playing the ball out of play too often. His long passing hasn't been good enough. We've seen Ange as well get a bit frustrated when he tries a long pass and goes out of play, so that's definitely something he has to work on, his passing ability as a goalkeeper, because that's becoming more and more important in the modern game. You see like Maddison and Alisson, how good they are with the ball at their feet, and I haven't seen Vicario to be at that level yet, but look, it's still very early days. I think by and large it was an okay performance, but definitely has to he needs to be a bit more of a calming influence on the back line. I thought yesterday he just wasn't that enough, but I think what he did in terms of what he generally did do as just as facts, he probably got more things right than he did wrong, so I think he did okay. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Let's move on to the defensive line, starting off with Emerson at right back. 7s all round for us for Emerson. There was a lot of good in there, also a bit of bad in there from Emerson as well. I think that Rico Henry did give him a torrid time, especially for the goal where he got rinsed on that side, and as well when Mbuemo missed that chance at the back post, Emerson was completely caught out, and Rico Henry did get the better of him. But I thought apart from those moments, I think he defended really well. He was coming into the midfield and winning back the ball time and time again, and laying off attacks, and obviously he scored an absolutely brilliant goal with a finish rifling into the bottom corner of the net.
Yeah, what a finish out of nothing as well. It was out of absolutely nothing. Just you didn't expect that from Emerson whatsoever, but it was a brilliant finish from him. I thought in general he played pretty well, but I think first half Rico Henry was giving a really, really torrid time, but I think he did calm down in the second half. He was able to readjust, and I think Rico Henry was a lot less effective in the second half than he was in the first half, so that's credit to Emerson. I did feel like because he plays his inverted role, when he's kind of picking up the ball in and around the penalty area, I know he scored, but apart from that, didn't really offer too much. When he's in the wide areas as well, he did a bit of link up with Kulusevski, but other than that, wasn't able to. He never really threatened to create anything, so he's got to improve that. But I thought it was a solid display overall.
And that nutmeg.
Oh, the nutmeg was brilliant.
The nutmeg owns a point on its own.
Yeah, that nutmeg with a bit of skill through it, that was really nice.
Let's move on to Cuti Romero. He went off very early, but Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I mean, to be on the pitch for 13 minutes and score a goal, I mean, you had to give him an 8 for me. But I think that he showed authority on the football pitch. I think he's growing in stature within this squad as well, which you could see. But I feel like he put in a really good display. Yeah,
I thought he was only on the pitch 15 minutes, but I thought he was having a really strong display, Cuti Romero. Unfortunately, he had the clash of heads, and that was unfortunate. But I think that Romero look. He was good for 15 minutes, and it's just a shame it didn't last any longer. What can we say? But I thought he was actually being front-footed, being aggressive, as he usually does. He was setting us on attacks, and a really nice header for...
bullet header.
Yeah, really nice header for the goal. So
and let's just hope the concussion rules don't keep him out for the Man United game, because we could be in a bit of trouble if that happens. Moving on to Destiny, Udogie. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. I thought Udogie, again, just took to the Premier League like a duck to water. Pretty much carried on his pre-season form in this game. Defensively, defensively, I thought he was spot on. Going forward, I did expect a bit more from him, but all in all, for a first game in the Premier League, I thought it was really good.
No, I think he was really solid. I thought down the left-hand side, he was the one more likely to get to the byline and create something than Son was. I thought defensively, I thought he dealt with Mbeumo really, really well. Mbeumo, I know he scored from the penalty spot, but apart from that, he didn't really do too much on Udogie's side. So I think he was a really promising display from him, and I think it showed a bit of maturity not to just abandon his defensive responsibilities. I thought he did a really good job with that. And I think in the middle, I thought he saw a lot of the ball, Udogie, especially in the central areas, and he was like looking forward, trying to make things happen. It was and I think he was really, really good. I think it was a bit better than Emerson, so I gave him a 1 mark better.
All right, let's move on to the man of the match, which was Yves Bissouma. 9s all round. I mean, the stats just say everything you want to know for Bissouma, to be honest. First in pretty much all the metrics that you want to take. He was combative, he was aggressive, they couldn't get the ball off him, he was driving into space forward as well, he was making good forward passes, and they just couldn't get the ball off him, and he got the ball off his counterparts every single time. So I think if this performance is anything to go by, Bissouma is going to be an absolute star in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. Man of the match again, off the back of another man of the match performance in midweek against Barcelona. I thought Brentford, he was the real one in the centre where when he got the ball, Brentford were worried about him. He was just gliding past players. He was opening up spaces. He tried a couple of through balls as well, which he was a bit unlucky with for Richarlison, which didn't quite come off. But he was really the one who was taking responsibility on the pitch and just creating space for his teammates. I just thought he was absolutely sensational off the ball as well, defensively. Apart from the goal, which maybe he didn't cover himself much glory, I think that he was fantastic. He was so strong. It was so hard to get past. And as well, when we're in the build-up play, he just gives this air of confidence and just comfort when you know you're passing it off to him, even when he's got players around him. And you know you've got that feeling when Dembele used to get it. He used to pass to Dembele, and you know even though he's got players around him, he's going to come away with it and create the space. And exactly that feeling you got with Bissouma now. Yeah.
Let's move on to Mickey van der Vertonghen. He was unbelievable yesterday, Van der Ven. 7s all round from us, and for a first game in the Premier League at that age, at centre-back, you can't really ask for much more, to be honest. I thought he looked confident, he looked calm, composed on the ball. He was driving into spaces, into the defence. Defensively, he just looked absolutely rapid. He was mopping up a lot of things that were going the other way, and it was just such a confident display. I mean, I didn't feel at unease at all any time the ball came anywhere near him, and for a debut in the Premier League, for someone that's just come in from Germany, to put in a performance like that, I think it was sensational. Yes, the ball clipped him when it went in, but I'm not going to mark him down too much. I thought it was just an unfortunate deflection where, you know, if it didn't touch him, you're probably not talking about a goal, and you're probably talking about 3 points. So I think that was unfortunate on the day, but you can't take away from what a great performance that was from him.
Yeah, barring a couple of dodgy moments, there was one in the second half, where he looped the ball away from him and he nearly gave away a penalty.
Yeah,
that was
true.
A bit of a dodgy moment.
Yeah.
And then as well, for the Vicario nearly penalty, he kind of lost Schade, but I think Vicario, maybe if Vicario doesn't come streaming out, Van der Ven could potentially have dealt with that. But apart from those moments, I thought he was near faultless. I thought he was, as you say, echo your thoughts. I thought it was a breath of fresh air seeing him in left centre back, and that pace that he's got and that height is really going to be an asset we're going to use. And I think as a first performance, considering how little he's been at the club, was absolutely fantastic. So it was a really, really exciting and encouraging display.
He looks like an absolute unit as well. Like, I didn't realise how hench he seems to be. Like, I knew he was like tall, but I thought he was more like skinny, tall and lanky, and he needed to like grow into himself a bit more. But he is an absolute unit, and he's going to be a star for us. He really is. I can tell already after one game. But let's move on to Ollie Skipp. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. I mean, it was the usual combative Ollie Skipp, never stop running performance in the middle of the park, but when he's ever asked to get on the ball or do anything yesterday, I thought he was more or less left wanting and didn't really contribute to anything going forward yesterday.
Yeah, I'm a big Skipp. I've been a big Skipp advocate, and I've always been backing him. But I have to say, I was very disappointed with his display yesterday. I didn't think that the 8 position really suited him at all. I felt like when he got on the ball, he was giving it away way too cheaply and wasn't able to play quick, incisive passes like maybe his midfield teammates were able to, and even some of the inverted fullbacks as well. So that was a bit annoying. I thought off the ball, Skippy always going to give a shift. He's always going to be not a liability in that aspect, and I think he was that yesterday. But I need to see if he's going to be able to play that 8 position. I just need to see more on the ball from him. He can't be getting caught in poor areas like he was, and then when we get into the final third, he needs to be showing more quality, and that just wasn't on show yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, does he keep his spot for the Man United game, do you reckon?
I would like to say no, but maybe Ange will think, just having that stability in the centre will be a good thing, but I think Sarr would probably get that role, but we'll see.
Next up, James Maddison, 8s all round from us. Unbelievable debut from him. 2 assists on the day, albeit that the assist from Emerson was kind of not really an assist, but I think the assist for the first goal was an unbelievable cross, right on the money for Christian Romero. Really hard cross, by the way, and Romero just batted it in, but all you have to do as well is look at the metrics for Maddison yesterday. The amount of key passes he made, I think it was key passes, 2 assists. He was playing with absolute authority. Captain's armband on his debut as well, which I've never seen a Spurs player do that. But I think he just showed everything that we've been missing over the last couple of years without Christian Eriksen on that football pitch. And again, he's going to be an absolute star for us. It's hard to get the ball off him as well. And he's just got such supreme ability on the ball. It's going to stand us in such good stead. Yeah,
it was a phenomenal debut, and he's a phenomenal player, and I can't wait for him to start laying on more and more assists, and more importantly get more goals, which unfortunately he wasn't able to do on his debut. But the chance creation was absolutely fantastic. It wasn't just the 2 assists, he was creating chances for Richarlison, for Son, and he was really buzzing around the penalty area, and he was causing real problems for Brentford. Even the free kick that he got the assist for Romero, he won it himself with some good dribbling ability. That's something that's underrated as well, his ability to wriggle out of tight situations, and when you look like he's going to get beaten, he can pull out a turn or a shift, and that's exactly what he showed yesterday. He also showed that leadership and responsibility with that captain's armband as well. I thought he really led the team very, very well, and it was a really, really good debut, and I was really happy with him, and I think he's only going to get better. I think as the season goes on, he's going to get so many goal contributions with the way we play.
Does need to watch himself a little bit though, because he was putting in a lot of aggressive challenges yesterday, and on another day he could have easily got sent off, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was a bit lucky with that, but I'm sure he'll learn from it.
Yeah. Next up, Heung-min Son. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. He gets a point just for leading the team over before the game to get the fans riled up, in my opinion. But I think he did show that responsibility, but he didn't get into the game anywhere near enough that I would have liked. He was kind of like wasted out there on the left wing. Whenever he got the ball, he wasn't really taking on his man, didn't influence the game enough, in my opinion. He had one chance at the back post where he kind of like snatched at the shot and it just went over and wide, but it was a very hard shot. It would have been a wonder goal if he did get it in anyway. But I would like to see Son maybe interchange with Richarlison a bit more. I felt like there was a couple of moments on the edge of the box where Son probably could have pulled the trigger, but he went for the passes instead, and we kind of like tried to walk it in. But hopefully Son will get better in this system.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. He did seem a bit ineffective, to be honest, which was frustrating. I thought on the left-hand side he was seeing quite a bit of the ball, but wasn't really able to affect the game enough. He kind of faked to run down the line, and then more often than not he'll check back and look for an option inside. And when we played like the way we did yesterday against a team who are very congested in the centre, we need our wide players to be getting a lot more joy out wide, and Son wasn't able to do that. Yeah, he had that one chance at the volley. He also had another chance in the second half which fell to him, which was a bit of a weak effort, went for the near post and it was saved by Flecken. That was a good chance. He probably could have done better with that, but apart from that, didn't really threaten. There was also one moment where Emerson danced into the penalty area, he squared it to Son, and he could have kind of got it under control or taken a shot or tried to pass it to free Maddison, and unfortunately did neither and kind of lost the ball to the defender. That was a bit frustrating as well. It needs to be better from him if he's going to be effective in this system. when I started seeing how Ange is going to play with the wingers, I did question whether Son is suitable at this stage of his career for that kind of role, and I think the jury is still out on that at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I kind of get the feeling about this next player as well, Dejan Kulusevski. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. I got really frustrated with Kulusevski yesterday. In the first half, I thought he put in a bit of a similar performance to Heung-min Son, where he wasn't really in the game. But second half, I thought he saw a lot of the ball and he started taking on his man. But it was just so frustrating with what happened after he kind of did that, where his passing seemed to be a bit off, wasn't taking on his shots. A bit like Sonny, there were a couple of opportunities where he could have pulled the trigger, but he went for the pass and tried to walk it into the opposition's box again. But I think Kulusevski, for me, that performance was pretty much what we saw from him last season, or in the last stage of last season.
I thought he was a bit better than Son. I thought he was, especially in the set. I thought first half, Rico Henry had won that duel hands down, and I think that was very important for how Brentford were going to nullify us, is winning those wide area duels. And I think Rico Henry wasn't having any of it from Kulusevski. But I did think that changed in the second half. I think he was getting more joy. He started to get to the byline a bit more, a couple of pullbacks. He did it was his shot that led to that Son opportunity, which Son probably should have done better with. And I think he was growing in influence as the game went on. Unfortunately, didn't create maybe the chances that someone like Kulusevski should be creating with his quality. But I did feel like Kulusevski improved as the game went on, but still want more from him.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's move on to Richarlison, our Brazilian number 9. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. Look, he was non-stop running throughout the game. He was pressing and he was showing that energy that we all know from Richarlison, but he did take the least amount of touches out of anyone on that football pitch yesterday. And I think that's kind of expected, to be honest, in an Ange Postecoglou system from your number 9. But I think when the chances did come his way, he should have done better with them. He should have got himself more involved in the game. But he was kind of feeding off scraps pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, it was a difficult day for him. It was always going to be a difficult game, but he did kind of lack any sort of impact, to be honest. He had those couple of chances in the second half, which maybe if he takes one of them, you're talking about a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 with that kind of work rate he offers. But unfortunately, wasn't to be. The chances went begging, and apart from those opportunities, it was very difficult for him to get in the game. When he was asked to hold the ball up, he struggled really badly to do so. His first touch still needs so much improvement. When he came deep to try and impact the game, he wasn't really doing him any favours because of his lack of build-up play. So another frustrating day for Richarlison, unfortunately.
Do you believe he could do this role?
Yeah, I do. I think yesterday, specifically in that game, was going to be a more difficult game than usual. I really believe when we play teams who are going to be a bit more open, or who aren't playing 3 at the back, I do think he's going to be making more of an impact. But I think yesterday was always going to be a difficult day for him, in my opinion.
Let's move on to the substitute, starting off with Davinson Sanchez, who came on after 12-13 minutes for the concussed Cuti Romero. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 7. And I was happy with Davinson Sanchez yesterday, to be honest. I thought he defended really well. He didn't put in as strong of a display as he did in the pre-season against Barcelona, but he did put a couple of those challenges in, those long bursting challenges, and I was really happy for his defensive display first and foremost. On the ball, you're always going to have those problems with him, to be honest, but I think his display on the ball was nowhere near as bad as maybe what we're accustomed to seeing from Davinson Sanchez, and he did keep the ball moving at certain times, but he's never going to give you those kind of dinks into the midfield and those long range passes that sometimes Cuti Romero can give you. So I think all in all, for the attributes that he does have, I think he put in a good display.
I thought he was decent. I was a bit look, he was all right. I thought defensively really strong, and I think we know he's a very good defender. He's a strong, fast defender, and I think a few times he had to make some really important blocks and some important aggressive challenges when need be, and I think he did step up for the team. I was just a bit frustrated with his on-the-ball quality yet again. He got booked for a really poor first touch, which he was end up stretching and sliding to recover and ended up getting booked for it. I think a number of times as well. One thing I like about Romero is when he steps up and is aggressive, He doesn't just win the ball. What he'll do is he'll aggressively win an interception, but get the ball to a teammate at the same time. And I think Sanchez struggled with that second part. He would be aggressive and win the ball, but but his kind of aggressive tackle won't land to a teammate. It would always consistently land to an opposition player, and I found that to be the case quite a few times yesterday. So I was a bit frustrated with that. His long range passing wasn't very good. I think when he had to keep things simple, when he had options near him, he was fine doing that. But I think when you have to make the difference to try and win the game, I just felt his passing, his on the ball quality just wasn't enough.
That's fair enough. But I mean, as an actual defender and his defensive work, I thought it was pretty good yesterday.
No, that's fine. But I just think in Ange's system, we need more than that.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Yeah, I accept that. Moving on to Ivan Perisic. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. I was actually calling for Perisic and maybe Porro as well to come on the right. But Perisic disappointed me yesterday, to be honest. I thought he did see the ball a number of times on that left-hand side, and I was expecting good deliveries to come in the box, but I think his delivery was nowhere near as what we've been seeing in pre-season for him. He didn't influence the game anywhere near as much as he has been doing in pre-season as well. There was one time where he did a few step-overs and got round the back, but that was few and far between.
I think he showed more in 15 minutes than Son did for the whole game, to be honest, in my opinion. And that's, it's not saying much, but I thought it was, I'm not saying he came on and did brilliantly, but he did come on and beat his man a couple of times, get a few crosses in the box. It's always going to be difficult to find a teammate when, you know, Brentford are flooding the box like they were. But I think he made a bit of an impact when he did come on with his dribbling ability. But as well, there was a couple of occasions where he dribbled inside and wasted it and gave it away frustratingly, and so that was a bit annoying. But I did think when he was isolating his fullback and one-on-one, he looked a lot more dangerous than Son did.
He just seemed to lose possession time and time again when he came on, and it was just really frustrating because we were pushing really hard in those final 10-15 minutes, and you really thought like you'd find some quality from Ivan Perisic, and that just didn't come, to be honest. Let's move on to the last substitute, which was Pape Matar Sarr. 6s all round from us, and I thought, you know, there was not much in there from Sarr, but what he did do, I thought he kept it simple. He showed a lot of energy, and it was a competent display. And I think that, not judging on this performance alone, but when you're judging on maybe what we've seen so far from both these players, I think Sarr is probably more suited to this system than Ollie Skipp is at the moment.
Yeah, I think he wasn't too involved when he came on. I think he was all right. I don't think he did anything wrong, but he didn't do anything special as well to try and impact the game. I did think it was actually the wrong decision to bring him on. I think at the time we were penning Brentford in at the time. We just needed a bit of guile and a bit more creativity, and I think Lo Celso was probably the best choice, in my opinion. But he went with Sarr, I guess, just to make sure that we didn't lose the game, and also, you know, he's got a bit more quality maybe on the ball than Skipp. So I'm not mad at the decision, but I didn't think he impacted the game that much when he came on.
And last but not least, let's go to our brand new manager, Mr. Ange Postecoglou. Great reception from the fans for him yesterday. It was a proper Tottenham welcome for Ange Postecoglou. The fans definitely made him feel welcome. He said it after the game how brilliant the fans were, but we are giving him 7s all round. It wasn't a perfect display. It wasn't an unbelievable display by any stretch of the imagination, but when we've been playing a certain brand of football for so long now, for him to come in, implement brand new players to the league, implement debutants. I mean, we had 3 players in the back line alone with Vicario, Udogie and Van de Ven, who'd never kicked the ball in the Premier League before. So that was always going to be a bit dodgy. And you had players like Maddison, who was making his debut as well. So for all this, and to put it all together in one game, in a really tough away game at Brentford, which only Arsenal out of the top 6 won last year, I think it was a really good starting block. We showed attacking intent. We were penning them in for a lot of the game. We were dominating the ball for a lot of the game, which we haven't seen Spurs do in a long time. So I think in terms of a building block, it was a really good starting point to start off with. I think a lot of teething problems in the first game, but you can definitely see what Ange is trying to do, and I think we're only going to get better. And I think he's instilled something in that team, like maybe a bit of a togetherness in that team already. He's instilled maybe a starting point to make that connection between the fans and the players again. So I think it was a really good starting point for his first game.
Yeah, I think if we're marking him on like trying to instill a style of play and building the rapport for the fans and kind of heading the rebuild, I think it'll be a higher mark. If we're just basing it solely on how we played on Sunday, this is why I gave him a 7 out of 10. I didn't think it was an overly impressive display overall. It was really good to see the amount of possession we have and the passing and the fluidity fluidity that we threatened to have at times throughout the game. I thought defensively in the first half, look, it was a bit of a mess, to be honest, and a number of times Brentford were catching us out, but we did get our act together in the second half and really prevented those counter-attacks. I think he'll be a bit frustrated, and I think he said after the game, he was asked by, I think it was an Australian reporter, he was like, you had 18 shots, are you really happy with like how much your team created? He was like, no, I don't think we created enough. I think we need to add that final kind of pass in the final third to be a bit more clinical and add a bit more quality. So I'm really happy for him to acknowledge that even though we had all this possession, it's not just about possession sake. You need to be creating good quality chances, and we didn't do enough of that yesterday. But I think that will come. The more time these players have together and the way Ange wants to play, I'm sure those chances will start to flow. And I think as a starting block, as the first game of the season under a new project with all the problems that he's had, I think it was a really encouraging display, and I was very, very happy with the style of play we're playing. And I just think there's way, way more to come. I think even think we've scratched the surface of what this team is capable of under Ange.
Yeah, and you got to remember as well all the problems that he's had to deal with already since joining Tottenham Hotspur, with the pre-season madness, with the Harry Kane sale. I mean, for Harry Kane to leave this club is such a gargantuan thing. Like, he's been so central to everything that we've been doing for so many years now, and to lose a player like that. And look, it affected us in a way where we weren't creating too much yesterday, weren't creating too many clear-cut chances. But to come away with a draw and put in a positive display, you got to give him credit for that. So big up to Ange Postecoglou. I think he's going to be a good manager here, and I think that we're going to see a lot of good things under Ange Postecoglou as it progresses throughout the season. Next up is Manchester United, so a very tough game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for his opening. But that is our player rating. So let us know your thoughts on the players in the comment section below,